And okay, let's see, got it. Okay, recording. All right. Um, Welcome everybody, and thank you for being here on a Thursday at 4 o'clock. Again, we're going to be recording this session, so we will send this recording to you, and you can pass it on to any of your peers or people who are interested in the program as well. My name is Florette Fernando. I'm the director of the Arts Leadership Program. And I'm going to pass to my two colleagues on the call to do their introduction very quickly, and then we'll get into the agenda. So let me pass to Dr. Amanda Kasha.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda Kasher, and I'm the Assistant Director of Arts Leadership. And I'm also the Assistant Professor of Arts Leadership and the coordinator of the graduate certificates, which I'll be discussing in a little bit. Just to give you a quick heads up that just please sign in. I put in the chat a link and put it in a few times now just to make sure that you can all see it. It's a Google Doc, and we ask that you just sign into that document. Leave us your contact information so we can reach out to you a little bit later on with more information. Over to
Thank
you,
you.
Paige.
My name is Paige Kutchell. I am a graduate of the program and currently serving as the president of the Arts Leadership Alumni and Student Association. Not related to University of Houston, I am also the board and executive relations manager at Houston Mallet.
Thank you, Paige. And actually, while you're with us, I wondered if you can just quickly give us a little bit of a sense of why you decided to apply to the Arts Leadership Program and what you felt you got out of the program, just for prospective students. I think it's always good to hear a student perspective on all of this.
Absolutely. So I graduated from my undergraduate degree in 2021, and that was towards the end of what felt like the pandemic. And it felt like getting a master's was a lot wiser of a decision than trying to find a job in the nonprofit field. I'm very glad that I did it because so many arts nonprofits that I was looking at working at require experience before they'll really consider you. And I think this program inevitably gave me that experience that so many of them were looking for without it actually being a job. Each of the classes had a lot of real world application and just projects that allowed you to connect with other arts individuals. And I think those connections run a long way in getting a job in the arts world. So I think what I got out of it is a lot of networking, a lot of experience that I wouldn't have gotten in a specific job title because you are able to do all of the different departments per se. And just the experience that allowed me to move into a manager level position instead of starting in a more entry level role.
Thank you, Paige. And one more thing I'm going to ask you to do, which is just a brief overview of ALASA and what the sort of mission is of that group.
Yeah, so the mission really is to just keep the University of Houston students and alumni connected and to provide professional development and networking opportunities. I think we all have seen the value of how small the arts world is and how knowing the right people can just get you what you need to know. Jenny, one of our other graduates, just texted me the other day. She works at Moore's and she's like, hey, the ballet owes me information. Can you peg the right people? So I was able to get her what she needed. And I think there's lots of ways, like I'm hiring an intern and I got to connect with Jacob Schindler, who's a graduate, and he's now director of education at Tuts. And I was like, hey, my intern is really interested in programming for those with disabilities. Can you let her shadow your programs during the summer? And he's like, absolutely. So I feel like that's really the goal of ALASA is helping build the relationships outside of the classroom. While the classroom projects are so important, you don't always get to meet everybody when you're split up into little groups and the classes are so small, which is lovely, but then you also don't always get to meet everybody. And so I think ALASA does a great job at building those connections.
Yeah, and it's been really great these last 10 years. We started the program 10 years ago, and in that time, the alumni and the current students have been able to stay connected, not just through social media, but through all of the events that ALASA organizes. So it's a really important part of our program. So thank you, Paige, for serving as president this coming year. So let me just jump into the next part of our agenda, which is the requirements for the MA degree program. So as many of you know, the application deadline is coming up May the 1st. And if you haven't already started your application, I would encourage you to do so now. Keep in mind that the application is fairly straightforward. It requires a transcript, which can be an unofficial transcript initially. If we need to get official transcripts later, we can get them from you after the deadline if necessary. It requires your resume or your CV. It requires 3 letters of reference. And I would say those 3 letters, you should think about one being from a professor or an instructor or a teacher, one being from somebody who served as your supervisor in a work environment or a peer in a work environment. And the third one would be up to you, somebody who can speak to your leadership skills and your ability to be a strong student. And we also ask for a personal statement. And that statement should be about 2 pages long, so no more than about 1,000 words. And in that statement, we want to understand a little bit about who you are, what your past experience has been, and how you think you can contribute to the program, and what you hope to do after you graduate. So we want to get a sense of how you will use the degree in your career plans after graduation. Keep in mind that this is considered a professional degree program. And so what that means is that all of our classes occur in the evening, starting at 5:30 p.m. And so that allows students to work during the day and then come to class at night. And pretty much all of our students are working professionals already. And you can complete this degree if you go full time in 2 years, but we give students up to 5 years to complete the program if they need the extra time. Some of our students are working in the arts, and so therefore they may go on tour, or they may need time to launch a production, or they may need to take a hiatus for whatever reason, and that's completely fine as long as you complete the 36 credit hours that is required for the degree in 5 years. So a little bit about the breakdown of the degree itself. It is, again, 36 credit hours, or you can think about it as 12 courses, 5 of which are core courses, 5 of which are elective courses where you have some wiggle room to sort of choose the courses you're most interested in. And some of those courses can actually be outside of the Arts Leadership Program in another graduate program at the University of Houston. And 2 of those 12 courses are considered your practicum placement course. And every student in the Arts Leadership Program must complete a 300-hour, so 300 real working hours, 300-hour practicum before they graduate. And that would be in an organization of your choice. Most of the time, it's a nonprofit organization in Houston, but we've had students do their practicum placements outside of Houston. For instance, we had a student do a practicum at the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. That is perfectly fine. But that placement serves as your capstone project and also as your thesis, because you write a paper on that, you defend that paper to a committee, and that's really the last sort of portion of your degree plan in arts leadership. So again, 5 core courses, which consists of subjects including financial management for the arts, fundraising for the arts, law and the arts, marketing and PR for the arts, strategic planning. Those are the core subject areas we want all of our students to have knowledge and information on. And then outside of that, you can take courses that include things like courses in our arts and health program, which Dr. Kasha is going to be talking about in a moment, courses in our museum and gallery management program, courses such as community engagement, technology and the arts. So we have several elective courses that you can choose from within arts leadership, but again, you can also choose courses outside of the program to fill that elective requirement. So that is a broad overview of the structure of the program itself. Of course, what we're looking to do is to train leaders in the field. Our students go on to be artistic directors, executive directors, directors of programs, and we have students now all over Houston, through Texas, now all over the country, and now internationally as well. So the program has grown quite a bit over the last decade. And we have students coming to us from all artistic disciplines. So from music, from theater, from dance, from visual art, from creative writing. And they all have the same intention, which is to work in administration, management, and leadership in arts and culture. So that's just a broad overview of the degree program. Of course, all of the details about the program, admissions processes, courses, bios for our instructors is on our website. And we'll put that in the chat so you can copy and paste that. We're also going to be sending you a copy of this PowerPoint as well, so you can refer to that as well. Okay. So I think with that, I'm going to pass over to Dr. Kasha, and she could talk to you about 2 of our graduate certificate programs, one in arts and health and one in museum and gallery management. So I'll pass to you, Dr. Kasha.
Thanks, Florette. So as Florette said, we have 2 graduate certificates. There are 2 application deadlines. So there's August 1 for fall and December 1 for spring. So we have options like twice a year to be able to pop into the certificates. The certificates are kind of offer quite a bit of flexibility to students who already have a master's degree, an accredited master's degree. So you can either be a current master's degree student at UH, or you can be somebody who already actually possesses a master's degree and you just want to furnish your qualifications with a little bit of something extra. And in fact, on our website, it tells you what the benefits of getting a graduate certificate are, because lots of students say, well, what is the benefit? So just reading off my list here, it's really an opportunity to professionalize, to get a specialization in a professional field that may not otherwise be, available more broadly within the university. So that's what we offer, is like this kind of customized extra qualification in museum and gallery management on the one hand, and then also in arts and health on the other. And I can explain a little bit more what those fields truly mean and how you can apply that if you wanted to get that additional qualification. The first piece, though, to say is that it's really exciting because starting this fall, both of the certificates are going to be online, like 100% online, synchronous. There'll still be classes in the evening. As Florette said, we still are aiming to attract our working professionals, so you'll still be able to do the evening classes, but it's 100% online. And we're really excited about that because of access reasons. And we also think that we'll be able to attract a really diverse pool of students from across the country and, across Texas, the state of Texas as well, of course. Who knows, maybe we'll also bring in some international students to be with us online. So we understand, from the pandemic that there are pros and cons of the online environment, but we're also, offering at least 1 week of in-person field trips and opportunities across both of those certificates. So if you do find yourself, you're in Houston and you're hungry for some like hands-on experience with your instructor, we are going to have an in-person moment, at least a week of visits with other, museum professionals, hospital visits with therapists and so on. But it will not be mandatory. It's going to be something that is optional for students to come in and have that hands-on component. So the first piece to add then is, apart from the exciting online component that is, we're really all, looking forward to seeing that shift in our program, is that the Museum and Gallery Management certificate is 12 credits, which means it's only 4 courses. It's a really small addition to your master's degree. And we're kind of really aiming towards students who really want to build on their experience working specifically within museums and galleries, of course, because within arts leadership, we're really training professionals like across a diverse array of arts and cultural organizations. I myself, as somebody who has years of experience as a curator and gallery director, and so I'm teaching 2 out of the 4 classes in the program. I'm teaching museum programming and I'm teaching Intro to Museum and Gallery Management. So in fact, the intro class is the only mandatory class for the certificate. The other 3 classes that you have to take are electives. And one of the options is an internship. So you can choose to do an internship in any museum in the city, or in fact, if you're from out of state, you can conduct an internship at any museum of your choice in the country. And I would be your supervisor and you would get credit for that experience, which is really exciting. And the same applies then to the Arts and Health certificate. The difference with that one is that one is only 9 credits, so that's only 3 classes. And you can do an internship in any kind of hospital setting, any kind of wellness environment that you think would be beneficial to you as you're gaining your experience. And in fact, I have 2 students doing that right now who are working at various institutions and hospitals within the city of Houston. And I check in with them and they get credit, three credits for that experience. So the Arts and Health certificate is something that is like a really, Florette can also speak to this, but it's really a really exciting growing area that more and more students, I just was on a Zoom call yesterday with a student talking to me about art therapy. So it's important to kind of distinguish that the certificate in Arts and Health is not an art therapy degree. It's not clinical. If you want to go on the clinical side, you have to pursue a master's in art therapy. But the Arts and Health program certificate really gives you, as an artist or a curator, that additional experience of being able to be hired and be employed by hospitals. There are a myriad different types of jobs within hospitals today. And unfortunately, since the pandemic, COVID-19, it's become something that medical organizations and institutions recognize the benefits of arts and how it can really transform our lives and help us to heal. So it's really exciting opportunities. Florette, do you want to jump in with that? Because Florette was really the one who spearheaded this.
Yeah, so, a lot of our programs and courses evolved from community need. And we started to see this field really growing in Houston because of our huge medical center. And then, of course, it really mushroomed, of course, after COVID, the need for support, not just in clinical settings, but mental health support across communities. And we also had seen before the pandemic, several of our students getting employed in these areas. And the students who came out of arts leadership said, it'd be great if we had a little bit more knowledge about all of this before we jumped into the deep end in a professional environment. So because of those experiences, we created this program. And that is going to be the case, I think, for arts leadership moving forward. We're always going to be responsive to community need and the feedback that we're getting from students and alumni. That said, actually, we're going to have a 3rd certificate program launching in fall of 2025, which will be a graduate certificate in film and television leadership and production. And that's going to be basically training producers of film and media and television content. So similar to arts leadership, but in a sort of, media space as opposed to fine and performing arts space. That's going to be a 5 course program. And again, we'll be launching that fall of 25. So you'll be hearing more about that online in the months ahead. So I think that's a pretty good overview of our programs. Of course, again, please check the website for all of our, details about deadlines, admissions information, course information. I want to go back to a little bit about that application process. I spoke about it at the beginning about what is required: the transcript, the resume, the statement, the 3 letters of support. Keep in mind that the minimum GPA for the program is a 3.0 from your undergraduate degree. If you have a 3.0 and you're accepted into the program, you would get what we call an unconditional acceptance. That means there's no conditions around it. You come into the program, everything's good. We have also admitted students who have a GPA that's slightly lower than a 3.0 because we believe that they'd be great for the program or they had very extensive professional experience. In that case, we give them a conditional acceptance. They still are able to enter the program in the fall, but they must then get a GPA over 3.0 in the first semester of their coursework. So if you are a student that's worried about that GPA, you're very interested in the program, you think you could be an asset to the program, but your GPA is slightly under 3.0, don't let that be a deal breaker, because we will still consider the rest of your portfolio and admissions packet. So you can always email us if you have questions or concerns along the way, but just know that that has been done in the past, and we would probably continue to do that for exceptional students, even if their GPA is slightly under a 3.0. Okay. And I think, once you're in the Apply web system, it's very straightforward. The prompts are pretty straightforward for what you have to do. Here's another thing I want to say is that you can apply with an unofficial transcript. Don't worry about that. If you can't get your official transcripts in line by May the 1st and they have to come to us a little bit later, that's perfectly fine. Again, you can shoot us an email and alert us to that, and we can get your official transcripts through the summer, because many of you are finishing up a degree program, we understand, this spring. Okay. Let me then talk a little bit about tuition. So we have a link on the UH website that connects to a sort of tuition chart for graduate programs. And if you go to that chart, we would be considered in arts leadership a College of Arts professional master's program. And you can see that, I think it's the first red header. That's right there. Okay. And if you look at that where it says resident tuition, you're looking at $421.76 per credit. That is for an in-state student. I'm not going to talk about non-resident for a second, because I just want to do a quick calculation for you there. If you think about that number as your cost per credit, knowing that you have 36 credit hours to complete for the degree, you're looking at a total cost of $15,183 for the full degree. So I want you to keep that number in mind if you're trying to do calculations. If you're like me, you're trying to do calculations in your mind and budgeting and thinking ahead about what it might cost you. That is what tuition would cost. It doesn't include fees, but just know that the majority of our students receive aid in some way, shape, or form from the UH Graduate School. So many students go through the program and they're able to pay about 50% of what that sort of sticker price is. And then, of course, you are eligible for out of university scholarships and, of course, financial aid. Of course, we love to see our students not have to take student loans out to get through this program. Some students decide they're not going to take a full load. They're going to kind of work and take a lighter load so they can pay as they go, and that's perfectly fine as well. So all of that to say is that it's a fairly affordable master's program, and this number that you're looking at, you usually end up, the majority of our students end up paying less than that. For non-resident students, so out-of-state students and international students, we have to date, knock wood, obviously all of this is predicated on budgets and allocations of funds from the university, but to date, every international and out-of-state student that has been admitted into the Arts Leadership student has received a $1,000 scholarship from the college, which then translates into an in-state tuition waiver. So what that means is that if the college gives a student a minimum of $1,000 scholarship, it also means that they can pay the in-state rate as opposed to the international rate or out-of-state rate. Okay, so we have not had a student, even though we've had many students from India, from Korea, from Europe, from South America come to our program, they have been able to pay the resident tuition rate. So I hope that makes sense. And Paige, I don't know if you are able to kind of give just a sense, you don't have to talk dollars and cents, but some of the aid that you may have received as a graduate student.
So I was able to receive the graduate student fund, tuition fund scholarship, which I automatically qualified for because I received a Pell Grant in my undergraduate degree. But I believe it's also based off of your tax filing status as well. So that's an income-based scholarship. And that gave me $5,000 a year, which was amazing. And then my mom works for Delta Airlines, so I was able to get a scholarship through her work. I would definitely look at that. If your parents or family members work for large corporations, they often have scholarship programs. And then lastly, I think there was an extra grant from the Texas Education Agency that just so happened to go out. And so based off of, again, my like tax filing status, I received that. So I ended up getting a fully covered graduate degree with all of those
Yeah,
scholarships.
that's amazing. Yeah, and I actually think that's the case for several of our students. Of course, we never want to make guarantees because every single student is different. We understand that. But the university does a pretty good job from the graduate school of trying to support our students as best they can. And so in the end, I think it ends up being fairly affordable and fairly doable, especially if you are continuing to work, full time. You don't have to stop your life and do this graduate degree as is the case in many other programs. And so that can be really difficult financially. So I think it's pretty, from the money standpoint, I think it's a fairly doable degree, especially if you can get it done in 2 years. Full-time basically means 3 courses a semester, not necessarily including summer, though many students do that practicum placement in the summer. So if you're thinking about like, what does a full course load look like? 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring, maybe doing 1 course in the summer, in that first summer, and then again 3 in the fall, 3 in the spring. Most of our students get it done in 2 years when they go full time. Okay. I think that covers tuition, and we talked about the course requirements. I think I would love to open it up, Jesus, Nicole, for any questions that you may have. Paige, if you are thinking about anything that maybe we glossed over that would be of importance to a prospective student, you can jump in as well. But let me open it up to see if there are any questions.
Hi, everybody.
Jesus?
I hope you can hear me well. I'm in a cafe right now, so it's kind of noisy out here. But I just wanted to ask, because I'm a resident in Texas. I'm not nationalized American yet. I have a green card, and I'm assuming that counts as a resident when it comes to tuition fees and everything, correct?
Yes, that's correct. If you're able to provide proof of residence for 12 months, then you would be considered an in-state student.
Yeah, I've been a Houston citizen for 12 years now, so that's easy to prove. The other thing is that I have an undergrad degree from Spain. I'm Spanish, and my translation may be here May 1st or may not be. I have an official translation of my transcript. I was wondering if I could submit that initially, and then when the official translation comes in, I'm not sure how well is it going to reflect GPA, obviously.
Yes.
But I'm hoping that, I'm a professional percussionist. I've been working on the arts and the field for many, many years, and I hope that my reference can make up for whatever, grades and things that haven't been too great. Conservatory in Spain was not especially motivating to study. I can go all day on that, but anyway, that's the whole thing. I mean, I'm hoping I can do the inscription like that.
Yes, absolutely. So get in as much as you can for that May 1st deadline and press submit. We will know, and the admissions department will know, if there's anything that still has to be verified or received. In the case of an international transcript, as you were describing, send us what you have, even if it's the unofficial transcript, and they will do all of that internal work through the summer to determine what that GPA is, et cetera. So we might have to put a sort of pin in your application until everything is received. So you may not find out about admission as soon as maybe the rest of the group, but it wouldn't push you out of the running for this coming fall. So what I would say to you is hand in and submit everything that you have currently. There may even be a spot for a notes to explain what your concern is with your transcript. And as a sort of backup, you can email Amanda or I, or both of us, and just remind us that, you have this translation coming, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll be sure to flag it with admissions, but it's not a problem at all.
Thank you. Thank you for that. One last question for me is that, as I said, I'm a professional musician. My wife is actually a graduate of Moore School of Music, so go Cougs. So we're already
Yeah, go Cougs.
we're a family.
Yeah.
But I was wondering if within the School of Music there will be any opportunities for work or any GTS internship or anything like that being part of this program, although it's not directly correlated to the School of Music.
Yes, and it was funny. Dr. Kasha and I were talking right before this meeting about whether we should talk at length about dual degree, but obviously we have some time today, so let me mention it. Our program has an agreement with all of the graduate programs in the College of the Arts. So that includes the master's programs in the School of Art, so that's a visual art, in the Moore School of Music, and in the School of Theater. The dance program doesn't have any graduate programs at this time. And what that means is that you can consider doing a dual degree track with one of the other graduate programs. Now, what you have to do is you have to apply to each program separately and go through the separate processes, because it's different. Obviously, in those arts programs, they may require a portfolio or audition, et cetera, which we don't require. And if you are accepted into both programs, then you could actually do a dual degree program, which can take, obviously it's longer. It can take up to 4 years perhaps, or 3.5 years to get everything completed. It does knock off some of the course requirements really in the arts leadership program. So in other words, that second degree in either music or visual or whatever, you would do the full course load as they prescribe it to you. And depending on the degree, this is why we didn't want to get too deep into it today, because it's very specific. Depending on the degree, you would have anywhere between like 9 credit hours or 12 credit hours knocked off of the arts leadership program. So there is some benefit to doing both at the same time. You could not finish one, graduate, and then come back and do the second and have that sort of that perk of having some of the courses eliminated. But if you are doing it at the same time, even if you pick up that second degree a semester or a year after you started the first degree, that is possible. So all of that to say, to answer your questions, if you are on that dual degree track, then you would be able to take advantage of some of the other TA and GA positions in those other programs. They are structured differently, Jesus, because they happen during the day. And many of those programs require the students to be committed to the program 100% and not working outside of the program. And that's why they're able to give you those sort of working hours to supplement your tuition and your cost of living. So I know that's a lot of information, but I just wanted to throw that out there because maybe that's something as a percussionist that you're interested in doing along the way.
Okay, thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. Any other questions? Nicole Fisher? Anything that we can answer for you?
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I did have a question. Can you give a brief overview of the different career options there would be under the arts and healthcare umbrella? All I'm really familiar with is art therapy, but I want to become more familiar with the other options available.
Yeah, so that's a great question, and you're correct. So art therapy, music therapy, those are very specific degree tracks. At this time, the University of Houston is developing and will be launching actually this coming fall an undergraduate degree in music therapy. So that is happening, and that's going to be brand new. The other programs which you might be familiar with around the country, in particular, I would say University of Florida has a really great visual art therapy, music therapy degree program. Our certificate, so keep in mind, it's not a degree program, it's a certificate. So it's an add-on in some ways to this major degree program in arts leadership. Our program is really focusing on training the program developers and program leaders in clinical settings. So for instance, I'll just give you an example of a student of mine. His name is Zachary Gresham. You can Google him and look him up on social or on the internet. He is the director of the Arts and Health program at MD Anderson. It is a program that brings artists and arts therapists and music therapists into a clinical setting. And he then is in charge of hiring them, curating the programs, managing the budgets, managing the programs. Thanks, Dr. Kasha. She's put that in the link for you. And so similar to the Arts Leadership Program, we are really interested in training the creators of, the managers of, the directors of these programs, mostly in clinical settings, so hospital settings. We also have a student, actually 2 students now, who work in a similar capacity at Methodist Hospital. One is in charge of all of the art that you see on the walls and in the lobby spaces throughout that hospital system. So she manages the movement and the curating of all of those artworks. She also creates programs for the doctors and the nurses to be involved in artistic practice as part of their sort of mental health management, stress management. So in other words, we're really looking to train and give tools to people who are going to be running programs or developing programs in the area of arts and health, mostly in clinical settings, but also in community settings now as well. Many of our arts organizations in the communities are developing these brand new arts and health programs because the need is so great throughout our community. So I hope that that helps to understand how it's different than a music therapy or art therapy degree program. Does that help?
Yes, absolutely. And I will be graduating with my undergrad in spring 2025, so one more calendar year.
Great.
Do most students pursue a graduate degree immediately the following semester after they graduate, or do they take time off, or does it vary?
That's interesting. It varies, and it's really interesting. And I wish I had really good data on it, but I can just tell you, if I was to ballpark, I feel it's just like probably a 60-40 split, meaning 40% of students come straight to us from an undergraduate degree, and the rest have had at least a year, maybe 2 out of school where they have been working and then decided to come back and continue their education. We do have those handful of students who come back to us after several years, 10, 15 years after their undergraduate degree, and that's perfectly fine too. What I love about the program is that it's a mix of students from different artistic backgrounds, but also different, kind of the same age and has the same interests and kind of in the same, kind of in the same zone. Obviously, graduate school is very different in that respect. But in our program in particular, because it's a professional graduate program, we run the gamut. And that is really wonderful in the classroom because the younger students learn from the older students and vice versa. The older students learn from the younger as well. There's so many things that this next generation of leaders has experience on or perspective on that's different than our older students. So if I had to kind of throw a dart at it, I would say it's that 40-60 split. But it's perfectly fine to come to us straight from an undergraduate degree. I will say, however, that it doesn't hurt. It's certainly a plus to have some work experience on that resume. So if you can talk about what you did in the summers or any kind of internship that you may have done while you were doing your undergraduate degree, or any work that you may have done as a teacher of art or music or dance or what have, any of that you can expand upon in your CV, resume, and your personal statement, I think that will position you well for a program like this if you are coming straight from undergrad.
Okay, wonderful. And do students who did receive their undergraduate degree from U of H, do they have any advantage, or maybe that's not the right word, would there be scholarships available to them specifically?
Not really. I think, of course, we always love our Cougs, so I wouldn't say there's no advantage. But in terms of financial aid, everyone goes into the same pot in terms of the allocations of funds, if there are funds. And that's why we're always a little bit tentative to say exactly what those funds are, because it changes from year to year in terms of the university budget. But what is probably more important than whether you were a Coug or coming from an outside university is what your GPA is, what kind of merit scholarship you would be eligible for, depending on the fund, like the funding source, because every scholarship has different requirements. And then also need-based, like Paige was talking about. If you can demonstrate need, that is also an area that can be funded separately to merit. And sometimes it's both. Sometimes students have merit scholarship money and need based. So somebody like Paige was able to kind of put it all together. And I think she actually told me that she may have made some money off of all of her funding. So in other words, it was free. And she was smart enough and strategic enough to sort of piece it together. So she really didn't have any student loan debt or out of pocket expenses. And I'm not going to say that's the case for every single student, but it's possible. So it being a UH student doesn't necessarily give you an advantage in terms of financial aid.
Okay, wonderful. Well, that was a very interesting. Yes.
Oh, could you say that again, hon? I couldn't hear you well.
Yes, that was very interesting. And what do students who are in the graduate program while they're taking it, do most of them work part-time or full-time outside of class?
Yes, yes. So I would say 90% of the students are working full-time. And then we have students who are also working artists, meaning they're gigging, right? So they're doing shows or what have you during the day. That's why, nighttime we understand, even though for a lot of other programs, like for instance, the Masters of Public Policy, Public Administration, they have a similar program where the classes happen at night. And it works really well because everyone working in public administration is a 9-to-5er for the most part. And then they come and they take classes at night. In our field, as you all know, that's not always the case. You have shows at night, you have fundraisers, you have galas, you have, a lot of our professional activity actually happens in the evening. So we understand that if you're not able to be at the nighttime classes every single semester and you have to take a little bit of time off to accommodate your professional schedule. But to answer your question specifically, the answer is yes, students work during the day. Many of our students are teachers, are educators themselves. Many of them are already working in arts organizations, and they may be in a more entry-level type position, and they're looking to build their skills to move up the ranks, to move into manager or director type positions. Paige, actually, maybe you can tell us a little bit about your time, because you were working, I think, full-time when you were in the program, weren't you?
I was working multiple part-time jobs.
Okay.
I might well have been working full-time. But I was teaching at Houston Ballet and our academy and our education outreach program, which worked really well because I also used those connections for my practicum. And I was also taught Pilates. So that helped me both have time to get all my coursework done, and then also have a stable income, which I felt was a little bit easier than some of my colleagues who had a normal 9-to-5, which because a normal 9-to-5 never really exists in the arts world since there's so many events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it was great for me to be able to teach and be able to do homework kind of like during the day. So if that's an opportunity for you, I would definitely recommend if you're able to do like a flexible time constrained part-time role rather than a full-time, if that's in your wheelhouse.
Now I'll tell you one more thing. Oh, that's great that we have the slide up for more information. I'll tell you, so this is an outlier. This is an extreme type A personality perfectionist. But that young man, Zachary Gresham, who we were speaking about, who's at MD Anderson, when he did the program, he's also serves as an adjunct professor in our program. He teaches an art and technology class, which is really great. It's one of the electives. He was working full-time at Houston Art League. He did our program full-time, and he also did a second degree, a master's degree in art education, and graduated with a 4.0. Okay, so I'm just telling you that it's a little bit nutty, and he's a little bit out there. He's an exception, of course, but exception to the rule. But he sort of demonstrated that it is possible. It is possible to do it all and work full time and be very successful and have that great GPA. You have to be very organized. You have to be very hardworking and very committed. I'm not recommending it, but I am simply saying that it can be And so just keep that in mind, that the courses, like I said, you do not have to take a full course load if it's just too much and you're one of those people who wants to get a very high GPA and just focus on the task at hand. It's better to go slowly and do well than to speed through it and to, not do as well. So that would be my recommendation. Okay, so this slide that we have up is really just links for more information about our program, our degree program, and our certificate programs, and then of course the admissions process. I think most of what you really need to know is online, but of course, at any time you can email us directly. I wonder if maybe I should put my information in the chat. That's probably a good idea. And, we're happy to meet with you one-on-one if you have more questions that, you didn't necessarily want to get into here, or if you're running into any roadblocks or any questions about the application process, we're happy to answer them. And please add your information to that Google Doc that's in the chat, just so we can capture your email information. And before we wrap up tonight, let me just make sure that there are no other questions or anything you might have on your mind that we can answer for you today. Paige, do you think there's anything that they should know?
Do it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Do it. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a really great program. At any given time, we have about 30 students, and they're not a cohort, as you know, because they're all going at different paces, right? So it's a fairly small program. Your courses will never have more than 15 students in any course. The average size of a class is about 7 or 8 students. So you have a lot of one-on-one time and contact with your professor. That will continue to be the case even with the online. The courses are online synchronous, just like this. So it's not like, things are pre-recorded or what have you. So you will be able to build those relationships with your mentors and your professors. And I do think Paige alluded to at the beginning of the meeting that that's one of the assets, I think, of the program is the networking, the professional networking and the professional development that I think continues on for our students even after they graduate. It's a really nice community of emerging leaders, and they've been able to help each other as much as we've been able to help them as professors. So we look forward to hearing from you again and to receiving your application possibly. And thank you so much for attending tonight. And we will follow up with the recording of this and spread the word. So thank you, Paige, and thank you, Dr. Kasha. We appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, everybody. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Jesus. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.